Okay, this is going to be a little bit more of a shorter episode, and it's going to be a lot more polished too. But, you know, in light of what I just saw, it kind of matches up to it. So, I just saw the premiere episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, the new animated series. Before I start this mini review, I have to say, I love Star Trek. I grew up watching Star Trek. I used to watch the old reruns of the original series, and then, you know, I was there for Next Generation and Voyager and Deep Space Nine and watched Enterprise. And even in the worst parts of Star Trek, you know, whether it's your Star Trek 5 or a lot of Enterprise episodes or Spock's Brain or whatever you want to, you know, there were some rough episodes and movies and things like that, but I loved Star Trek overall. To be fair, I even kind of liked the Kelvin Timeline J.J. Abrams movies. I didn't like Into Darkness, though. They cribbed way too hard off Wrath of Khan, but I thought the first one was kind of fun popcorn fare, and Star Trek Beyond got a little better. I think they were trying to really kind of get into their groove and make their new version of Star Trek, because, I mean, the original cast is old, about half of them are gone. It's just, you can't recreate that magic again, so you have to try something new. I'm all about new Star Trek. You know, there was Next Generation, which was really different than the Kirk era voyages. Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, each one added something a little new and a little different. Always a new captain, always a new crew. You can't always be Kirk and Picard for everything, and I'm okay with that. And even when it was a new version of Kirk, I was still okay with it because it was different and they clearly established it as such. I don't know what this new version of Star Trek is. I really tried to give Discovery a chance until I just couldn't anymore. I really wanted to like Picard. I liked the first lead-in episodes, and I liked the episode where Picard reunited with Troy and Riker. And there were one or two little moments in there, but by the end of it, oh man, it just, oh. And then I wasn't expecting a lot from Lower Decks. I wasn't, but I wanted to be fair, and I wanted to give the first episode a chance, a fair chance. Lower Decks, I'm guessing they probably pulled the concept from a season episode of Next Gen. That was also called Lower Decks, about 4 junior grade ensigns going through their trials and tribulations on the ship. Unlike that episode of Lower Decks, these new ensigns are not interesting, or competent, or likable. And I guess that's the joke. I guess that's the joke of this whole series, because but the thing is about jokes is you actually have to laugh for them to be jokes, and I didn't laugh through any of this. It was just, it just hurts seeing Star Trek become what it has. I just feel like the showrunners of this new iteration of Star Trek really don't know what Star Trek is, what makes up the essence of Star Trek, and even if they did, they don't care. That's the problem with this new Star Trek. They don't care. It's like the most cursory knowledge. It's like, okay, you have a ship called Enterprise, and you have Spock, and you have Borg, and you got this, and a Tribble, and good enough, we'll make a show. And that's what they do. Star Trek Lower Decks is this show. It's the second animated show that Star Trek's ever done, and instead of taking any sort of realistic approach to it, it looks like a Rick and Morty cartoon, except that it doesn't have the nihilistic attitudes of Rick and Morty. It doesn't have that dark humor. It's that goofy, stupid stuff from Rick and Morty that kind of makes it funny because they also mix it with some clever quotes and some interesting scenarios and things like that. But this is Rick and Morty without all the dark and interesting stuff. This isn't even like the Orville where they make a lot of jokes during that, but after a while they get into the like, all right, we gotta have our adventure and we gotta get into the heart of it and that feeling of, you know, discovery and exploration. And that's not here. You have 4 jerk characters. I can't remember any of their names. The ship's name is Cerritos. And it's a weird design, but okay, you know, hey, new Federation-style ships. And it's very clear that this is a post-Next Gen cartoon, because they definitely, you know, rated the sound bank for all the Next Gen sounds, because it definitely sounds like a Next Gen episode with everything. I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of defenders saying, oh, well, this is Star Trek for kids. You know, this is meant for kids. This is not meant for you. Well, I grew up watching the original series. I was young when Next Gen came out and all those other shows in the 80s and 90s. I handled that just fine. I don't see why kids today wouldn't be able to process your show like that on the same level. You know, the original series was like over 15 years before my time, and I was still able to handle that and get what was going on and enjoy it and find humor in it and adventure. And I don't know, this is the third show from this new CBS All Access Star Trek, and I just feel like the creators and the showrunners and whoever is holding this license just has a sense of contempt for Star Trek. I don't get it. I want more from my Star Trek than just a billion explosions and laser fights and shout outs to all your favorite Star Trek things. Remember Sulu? Remember Romulan Ale? Which they don't even call it Romulan Ale properly in this. By the end of this episode, they gave like 85 million name drop shout outs to various characters and ships and scenarios, and I was just like, I'm glad you read Wikipedia. I'm glad you got all these references, but for all the references and names and scenarios that you drop, you still don't understand Star Trek any better. This new show is rough, man. I don't know what they're thinking. It's like I watched the whole, for the season of Star Trek Lower Decks, and I'm waiting for that joke. I'm waiting for that connection. You have to build something that makes you want to see the next episode, and I didn't get it. I don't know what they're doing. I don't think they do either. And that's really sad after watching Star Wars go down the toilet and now Star Trek. At least for the old timers like me, I guess, that like plot and exploration and the human adventure and everything that goes with Star Trek, or used to. At least there's still a lot of media out there, so at least you can still enjoy Star Trek in some capacity. Damn, man, I was just waiting to connect with a new crew. I've had 3 opportunities to connect with a new crew, and nothing. Just... yeah, this is Star Trek for Dummies. This is the Cliff Notes of Star Trek, and you might be able to pass by, but at the end of the day, you still don't get what makes this show as long-lasting as it has been. The thing is, they just don't get why the show has lasted over 50 years, and it's not just explodey things and this and a Tribble and Resistance is futile and an occasional Spock name drop. It's... damn. Really, just, ugh. So that is my initial thought on Star Trek Lower Decks. I just wanted to shoot this video while this was still fresh in my head, and it's just... I kind of hoped with the Next Gen aesthetic that it might have had some sort of relevance. I kind of liked the zombie plot a little bit. It was just such a background element, and even the main legacy crew, the senior staff, none of them seem interesting either. So you've got a whole ship full of uninteresting, just repellent characters. So good job if that's what you were setting out to do, but I just don't see this for me. Anyway, that's my quick and dirty review on Star Trek Lower Decks. So there you go. Bye.